What's going on, y'all? This is Clarence Jr. Very impromptu stream. We're not going to be here long at all. Literally did not plan on doing this at all. This is a very interesting situation. And we're going to keep it real. That's the only reason why we're here. We're here because, in my opinion, I don't feel as though people are keeping it all the way real. But let me get something out the way. I don't have any problem with Kentucky State. Matter of fact, shout out to Kentucky State for having the year that they're having, on the verge of making the playoffs. This is I can remember what I think 2 years ago where they played Union in week 0 and it got ugly. Was that it might not I think it was. Yeah, it was Kentucky State. And so 2 years later to be in the position that they're in now, shout out to them. That's an amazing thing, right? And if they get in, that'll be awesome. Then if they get in and win a game, that'd be even better. So I don't have no issue with Kentucky State. I'm not mad at what they did. The only reason why this is even interesting to me is the reaction that I'm seeing to it. Because what's interesting about this whole situation to me is people are acting like a thing is not a thing. It's like, don't believe your lying eyes. What you see happening is not really happening. And so before I get into what I think is pretty clear of what's happening, let's just go ahead and look at a few things. Let's start with, and I'm gonna put up a few things, but let's start with this. So, the Conference of the Carolinas and the SEAC got into an agreement that good teams that did not make the championship game would play each other on basically on championship Saturday to boost resumes and give the conference more of an opportunity to get multiple teams into the playoffs. Right? So that was the idea, that was the agreement. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to read this article from HBCU Game Day. Let's go ahead and pull that up. All right? So, a decision by Kentucky State University and HBCU to change its final regular season opponent has sparked controversy in NCAA Division II football. It has also exposed cracks in one of the sport's once proud leagues. Kentucky State 8-2, which once again, shout out to them. That's a great year, 8-2. Currently number 6 in NCAA Super Region 2, was originally scheduled to travel to face Delta State. Let me read that again. Kentucky State was originally scheduled to travel to face Delta State. They agreed to go to Delta State in week 11. They did. However, the school has amended its schedule to instead host Shorter University, prompting Delta State's head coach Todd Cooley to blast the move in an article published by Football Scoop. And we'll play with the coach in a second. They're supposed to be coming to Cleveland this weekend to play us, and they're not, which, what we just read, yes, they were. Okay, well, we'll keep going. They're playing Shorter. It's setting a precedent that shouldn't be set, and we'll talk about that too. So, let's keep going. HBCU Conference had an agreement in 2023. All right. The decision is not without precedent. In fact, it stems from a formal agreement between the HBCU-based Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, the SEAC, and the emerging Conference of the Carolinas League. The two conferences signed a football scheduling alliance, that's a key word, in December 2023 that ensured non-championship qualifying teams would face off in week 11 for what reason? To boost NCAA postseason resumes. Why are they playing this game? What's the agreement? What are they playing these games for? To boost opportunities to get multiple teams into the postseason. That's why they agreed to play the game. They didn't agree to play a game just because, hey, man, we want to play 11 games. No, they're adding an 11th game to boost postseason resumes. Per the agreement, participating schools must be above 500, must not exceed 11 regular season games, and cannot be required to travel more than 500 miles. I mean, you can make them travel more than 500 miles. With other Conference Carolina school options out of range or ineligible, 2-8 Shorter was selected to face. You heard that right. 2-8. We'll get into that. Okay. SEAC Commissioner Dr. Anthony Holloman was clear. The decision was about protecting student athletes and maximizing playoff potential. Now, that's a true statement. This decision was definitely made to maximize playoff potential. You see, he just told you what's going on here. I don't know if I'm going to say that again. Did you hear what the commissioner said? The decision was made to maximize playoff potential. Because, once again, a 9th win maximizes postseason potential much more than a 3rd loss. Okay. As the commissioner of the SEAC, I am an unapologetic advocate for my member institutions. We want to play for championships, and we want to get as many deserving teams in the NCAA playoffs as possible. Okay. This wasn't about playing the worst team. Yes, it absolutely was. We'll get into that. But okay. We created this partnership to avoid what Kentucky State and Delta State had initially. Hold on. Let me see. Did I read that right? We created this partnership to avoid what Kentucky State and Delta State had initially agreed to. Kentucky State would have been on the bus for 8 hours. So here's the thing about that part. Before they agreed to play this game, did they not know where Delta State was located? Did they not know how they were going to get to Delta State? But they still scheduled the game, right? But once again, they tell on themselves, listen to what they say. We created this partnership to avoid what Kentucky State and Delta State had initially agreed to. We created this partnership to avoid what Kentucky State and Delta State had agreed to. We created this partnership to avoid what Kentucky State and Delta State had initially agreed to. Okay, well, okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and listen to the coach at Delta State.
You bounce around and you're sitting here and you got Kentucky State, who signed a contract to play us July the 14th. They're supposed to be coming to Cleveland this weekend to play us, and they are not. What I really want to do is get back out and play another game. And you bounce around and you're sitting here and you got Kentucky State, who signed a contract to play us July the 14th. They're supposed to be coming to Cleveland this weekend to play us, and they are not. They are playing shorter because they're telling us that they've got an agreement to play the third place team in Conference Carolinas. Well, Shorter is not the third place team in Conference Carolinas. So basically it's just a deal for them to play an extra game. But here we are, two teams in the regional rankings, and we've got a chance to clear some stuff up this weekend and finish it where it's supposed to be finished on the field. And you got a team that's not wanting to play. So it's baffling to me. It's setting a precedent that should not be set. So I don't know. It's tough, but our players we're going to continue to work this week. We know that we need some help right now to get into postseason, but we've got to play as if we're going to get that help and we're going to continue to move ahead. And I just believe good things happen to good people. And I think that somehow we're going to find a way to get in the playoffs. I think we've earned that right. And, our numbers are good. And we're excited. So hopefully we're going to continue we're excited about an opportunity to go back and try to play better than we did the last time out. So hopefully we're going to get that chance.
All right. So there was the coach. Before I go any further, I just want to reiterate a particular line from the HBCU Game Day article, right? So, once again, let's go back to what was the reason there was an agreement made with the Conference of the Carolinas. The two conferences signed a football scheduling alliance that ensured non-championship qualifying teams would face off in week 11. For what reason? To boost NCAA postseason resumes. They agreed to play on championship weekend to boost postseason resumes. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Once again, we just heard they made the alliance to boost postseason resumes. We also heard they agreed to play Delta State in July. Now, let's look at the Conference of the Carolinas and their standings. So you have North Glenville and UNC Pembroke, and those are the only two teams in the conference with winning records. Those would be the only two teams that would need a resume boost. The thing is, those two teams are playing each other Saturday for the championship. So this current season, the Conference of the Carolinas do not need an extra game to boost resumes because the only two teams that are above 500 are playing in the championship game. Everyone else is below 500. Right? And so to make good on the alliance, if a game was needed, they would pick one of the teams in the conference and say, okay, y'all go play this game because we have an alliance. However, technically, a game versus the Conference Carolinas was not needed because they already have a game scheduled. Well, they already had a game scheduled. Let me say that again slowly. The alliance was created to boost postseason resumes. Nobody in the Conference Carolinas is in a position to boost their resume. The only two teams that have any postseason aspirations are already playing week 11. They're playing each other in the championship game. The rest of the conference is below 500 and has no chance of making the postseason and has already played 10 football games. So, this season in particular, Conference Carolinas does not need a game. But since they did make an alliance, they would provide a game if the other side needed a game. However, the other side did not need a game because they already had a game scheduled that they scheduled in July. You see where I'm going? You see where I'm going? I hope you're following. Because once again, yes, I'm not saying the alliance doesn't stand. Let me say it. Let me say it one more time. Conference Carolinas did not need the game. But since they made an agreement, they would provide a game out of respect to the agreement. If a team needed a game. Kentucky State did not need a game because they already had a game scheduled. That's the part people keep skipping over. If they wanted an 11th game to boost their resume, they already had an 11th game scheduled. Already. They can't. Okay. It's like, why we keep skipping over that part? Only one team needed an extra game. And that team already had an extra game scheduled. There was no need to cancel the game that was already scheduled because the other party does not need a game. Unless you're trying to tell me that Conference Carolinas was like, no, we got an agreement. Somebody got to play Firm. Firm needs an 11th game. Oh, no. Barton at 3-7, they need an 11th game. No. The Conference Carolinas was not saying, oh, no, y'all owe us a game. One of these bad teams that we got needs to play another game. No. Truth be told, most of the teams in the conference had probably already wrapped up their season and it was over. Like, we got conference mandate. Conference, what was the mandate? Once again, who mandated what? Let's skip to that part. Who mandated what? And then let's talk about why did they mandate it? Let's just be real. Let's just, we got to stop playing these games. Let's be real here. Let's just be real. One team needed an extra game. That same team also already had an extra game scheduled. The other party does not need and probably does not want another game. Yes, yes, it was done once again. We keep skipping over the why. The alliance was made for what reason? The alliance was made so, in the case that teams in these two conferences needed a resume boost, they could play one another for a resume boost. That's why it was made. Once again, one side of the agreement does not need a resume boost, does not need to play another game. But they would play another game to honor the agreement if a team needed another game. But once again, said team did not need another game because they already had another game. So once again, the question then becomes, why was a scheduled game canceled? Let's just tell the truth. That's all. That's the only reason why this is interesting, because everybody wants to act like they don't know what's going on here. Hold on. What's it say? He says the one time the HBCU has the upper hand and is doing better business. It's I mean, listen, you can I don't have an issue. I don't, how do I put this? I don't necessarily have a problem with you having the upper hand, you know. I don't have a problem with that. All I'm saying is, why are we, oh, listen. All I'm saying is, why are we pretending that we don't know why the game was changed? That's the only reason why it's been the thing. We are pretending like we don't know why the game was changed. The game was changed because one opponent is easier. Like, let's just tell the truth. That's all. That's the only reason I'm even talking about it, because why are we playing games? They canceled the game because they had a way to play an easier opponent. Like, that's why. That's the only reason I'm even talking about it, because people want to pretend like, oh no, it ain't about. Yes, it is. They already had a week 11 opponent. But they also had, and what this is what you say about the upper hand, they also had, they had a big joker in their pocket, right? Yeah, they had a big joker in their pocket. And they said, you know what? We can play a tough opponent on the road and potentially lose, or we can play a bad team at home with a higher percentage of winning. And so they chose option B. That's what happened. Like, that's all that's the only reason I'm talking about this. Is I don't understand why we won't just admit to clear and obvious truths. It's like, I don't get that. I really don't get that. Yes, you can say, hey, they had plenty of options. They exercised their options. Delta State is SOL. Oh well. Okay. But on the other hand, let's just tell the truth. There's a reason why this choice was made. They opted for the easier opponent. like, why are we playing games here? I don't, it's like, what is so hard about that to admit? Like, if Bowie State was in this same situation, I'd just be like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we had an option of playing. Let me make up some other schools, right? Like, let's just say, let me think of some. Valdosta State or Chowan was bad. Chowan. We had a choice between going to Valdosta State or playing Chowan at home. I would say, yeah, man, we gonna beat Chowan and get in the playoffs. That's why we did that. I don't understand why we just can't admit what happened. Once again, I'm gonna go through this one more time. The situation, if they were ranked fifth, they would. Listen. You keep skipping over the clear and obvious, what's going on here. Once again, they needed an 11th game. They already had an 11th game. However, the 11th game was a tough game on the road. But in their back pocket, they have an alliance with another up and coming conference. And so they said, hey, there may come a year where you need another game, but we don't have anybody that needs a game. You scratch our back in the future, hey, we'll scratch yours. Which one of the teams in your conference, even though they had already wrapped up the season and thought the season was over and had their senior day, and some of these schools are probably already started the process of letting coaches go and all this. Just make some calls around the conference and see which one of your institutions would be open for a game. And hey, we'll remember this. And who knows, next year you may need the same favor from us. And hey, we got you. But you know what? We have a nice opportunity to get into the playoffs, to get multiple teams into the playoffs. And so you know what? We want to ensure we do everything we can do to get in. And so, listen, we looked at. They didn't say this part, but what they think it was, hey, we looked up and down y'all's rankings, and hey, pick any of those 4 teams. We're confident we can get that win. So, hey, scratch our back, and next year, the year after, we'll scratch yours. Delta State, hey, I wish them the best. They on their own. We're going to take the path of least resistance to get as many teams in as possible. That's what happened. That is that simple. It would be one thing if, let's say, Chowan or what's the name of that school? Barton or even Eskren was above 500 and maybe had a chance to get into the playoffs. And so they said, hey, man, we got an agreement. You got to play one of these teams for their resume. Once again, this was not a year where they needed any resume boosting. So they weren't obligated to play anybody in the Conference of the Carolinas, because the Conference of the Carolinas was not going to them saying, hey, man, you better pick one of these 3-7 teams and give them an 11th game. That wasn't the conversation. The conversation, once again, went like this. Hey, man, you scratch my back, I'll scratch. That's what happened. But I'm glad you said this right here, because guess what? There's a possibility that this works. We're not the only ones who are seeing this. Everybody is seeing this. The voters are seeing this. And hey, they're humans at the end of the day. And so I'm not saying it will backfire or it should backfire, but what I'm saying is you are running the risk that people see what happened and they don't like it and they go in a different direction. Because let's just be real. How much of a resume boost is beating Shorter in Shorter's 11th game of the season? How much of a boost is that? Like, seriously. So so people factor in who you played, who you beat, how much you wound up beating them by, and how you got into the position to play this game. And listen, it may not gain you as much favor as you think it will. Because let's just be real. It's all like, we got to understand, like, listen, at the end of the day, this is an HBCU doing this to a PWI. Somebody ain't going to like that. Like, we got to be real about that. Like, who you think you are doing? Come on now. So imagine you get a bad team to come to you for an 11th game and you win by one possession. Who's to say that the voters don't say, you know what, just because I don't like how you did Delta State, I'm going to still put them in over you. Like, hey, who's to say that don't happen? But once again, the only reason we are here is because, for whatever reason, we are pretending like they didn't opt into the easier game when they clearly did. Like, like, it's that simple. They opted into the easier game. That's exactly what they did. Once again, I'm not mad at it. I mean, strategy wise, strategy wise, it makes sense. It could backfire, but it does, it does make some logical sense. But I just didn't understand why we're pretending like we don't know what's going on here. We know what's going on here. They said, hey, man, what's the path of least resistance? Let's take that. Now, we do have to think about, how this could, like, if they wind up getting in, this could go one of two ways. It could be, hey, we got into the playoffs. Nobody expected us to be here. And it galvanizes everybody and they're excited and they make something happen. Or how they get there could be, okay, well, clearly the people in charge don't think we're that good. Because if they don't think we could beat a borderline playoff team, I know they don't think we can beat one of these top seeds on the road. So it could go either way. Like, this is it's an interesting strategy. And once again, I will say that, hey, they had multiple options. They got options out here. They like people in the dating game these days. You got options. And they exercising their options. That's hey, shout out to them. But let's just be real. How many people do we know that get out here and start exercising options and it don't end how they think it's going to end with all those options? And I don't want to get into the relationship talk, but let's just be real. How many of these, I'm a high value man, I got all these options. It ain't go how they thought it was going to go for a lot of them. But once again, man, hey, good luck out there to Kentucky State, Good luck. Yeah, go out there, play shorter, play a good game, see what happens, get into the playoffs. Hey, do your thing. But let's be real and call a thing a thing. You switched opponents because you had the option of playing a much easier opponent. That's what you did. And once again, I ain't mad at you. There's no big deal. But it's just like when people do, what I've noticed with us sometimes is if it's us and if we got an affinity for the particular person or entity, then all of a sudden what they doing is not really what they doing because they one of us and we like them. I noticed that many years ago. Depending on who it is, what they did is not really what they did. It's not really like that. You know, you talking black and white when it's really gray. But once again, if the shoe was on the other foot and somebody did this to a CIAA school, then it's just like, oh no, now it's black and white. They did this because they racist and this, that, and the third, and da 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 da. But because it's our cousins over there, it's like, oh man, it's not really like that. It's gray. It's like when we like somebody, it's like, no. 2 plus 2 is 4, but I feel like it's 5. That's really how it be though. When we like somebody, all of a sudden, what's real and what's not is kind of like we don't really know no more. It's like, well, if I like you, 2 plus 2 is 4, but I feel like it might be 5. But hey, man, I ain't gonna be here all night. Shout out to Kentucky State, man. Good luck.